In the early 8th century, the Mediterranean world was a place of shifting empires and ancient rivalries, but no change would be as dramatic as the one that began on a narrow stretch of water. To the north lay the Iberian Peninsula, ruled by the Visigoths, a kingdom fractured by internal strife and a struggling monarchy that was about to face its ultimate test. In the year 711, a commander named Tariq ibn Ziyad led a force across the straits. Legend says he ordered his ships to be burned, leaving his men with only one option: victory. He spoke to his troops with fire in his heart, telling them, "The enemy is before you and the sea is behind you." This was the birth of Al-Andalus. The Visigothic king, Roderick, rushed south to meet the invaders. The two armies clashed at the Battle of Guadalete, a fight that would decide the fate of a kingdom. The battle was a catastrophe for the Visigoths. Roderick disappeared in the chaos, and his army shattered, leaving the road to the heart of Spain wide open. Tariq and his forces moved with incredible speed, capturing Toledo, the Visigothic capital, within months. The rapid collapse of the kingdom stunned the medieval world. Soon, a second wave led by Musa ibn Nusayr arrived to reinforce the gains. Together, they swept across the peninsula from Seville to the foothills of the Pyrenees. By 718, almost the entire peninsula was under Muslim rule. They called this new land Al-Andalus, a name that would become synonymous with culture and science. But the 8th century was not just about expansion. It was a time of immense internal struggle. Different factions vied for control in this new vast frontier. The Berber soldiers, who had made up the bulk of the initial force, felt marginalized by the Arab elite in Damascus. Tensions began to simmer beneath the surface. In 732, the expansion northward was halted at the Battle of Tours by Charles Martel. For Al-Andalus, this marked the end of their quest into the heart of Gaul. While Al-Andalus stabilized its borders, a massive revolution was brewing thousands of miles away in the east that would change the peninsula's fate again. The Umayyad Caliphate in Damascus was overthrown by the Abbasids. In a brutal purge, nearly the entire Umayyad royal family was executed at a banquet. But one young prince escaped. Abd al-Rahman, the grandson of the caliph, fled into the night, beginning an epic journey across North Africa. For 5 years, he lived as a fugitive, evading Abbasid assassins. He was known as the Falcon of the Quraysh for his ability to survive and soar above his enemies. Abd al-Rahman saw Al-Andalus as his only hope. He sent messengers to the peninsula, appealing to the loyalties of those who still remembered the Umayyads. In 755, he landed at Al-Munyaqah. He wasn't just a refugee, he was a claimant to the throne, and the people of Al-Andalus were divided. The governor of Al-Andalus, Yusuf al-Fihri, refused to step down. The two sides met at the Battle of Musara, near the city of Cordoba. Abd al-Rahman was victorious. He entered Cordoba not as a conqueror, but as the first emir of an independent Umayyad state. This was the true beginning of the Golden Age. Abd al-Rahman I realized that to survive, he had to build a state that was both powerful and inclusive. He began the construction of the Great Mosque of Cordoba, a masterpiece of architecture that blended Roman, Visigothic, and Islamic styles. He also transformed the landscape. He introduced new irrigation techniques and crops from the east, like oranges, lemons, and pomegranates. But the north was never quiet. Charlemagne, the king of the Franks, saw the instability of the early emirate as an opportunity to expand his own empire. In 778, Charlemagne invaded. He laid siege to Zaragoza, but the city held firm. Fearing a revolt back home, he was forced to retreat through the mountains. As his rear guard moved through the narrow pass of Roncesvalles, they were ambushed by local Basque tribes. a disaster immortalized in the Song of Roland. Abd al-Rahman I had successfully defended his borders and secured his throne. He had turned a collection of warring provinces into a unified, thriving emirate. By the end of the 8th century, Cordoba was becoming the most sophisticated city in Europe, a rival to Baghdad and Constantinople. It was a place where libraries flourished and where people of different faiths, Muslims, Christians, and Jews, began to live in a fragile but productive peace. This era, known as the convivencia, or living together, laid the foundation for the intellectual explosion that would soon define Al-Andalus. The 8th century ended with the death of Abd al-Rahman I in 788. He left behind a legacy that would endure for another 700 years. He had survived the slaughter of his family, crossed continents, and built a new empire from the dust. He was the root from which the greatness of Al-Andalus grew. But the story was only beginning. The foundation laid in the 700s would lead to the rise of the Caliphate of Cordoba, the height of Muslim power in Europe. For centuries to come, the name Al-Andalus would represent a peak of human achievement in philosophy, medicine, and the arts. The 8th century was the crucible where this unique culture was forged, a blend of East and West that would light the way through the Dark Ages. As we look back at the history of Muslim Spain, we see a story of incredible ambition, devastating loss, and remarkable rebirth. From the first landing at Gibraltar to the building of the Great Mosque, every moment of the 8th century was a step toward a legendary legacy. The lessons of Al-Andalus, of resilience, innovation, and coexistence, still resonate in our world today. The story of Muslim Spain in the 8th century reminds us that even in the face of total collapse, a new and beautiful world can be built. Al-Andalus began as a daring crossing, and it ended as a beacon of light for the entire world. This was the history of the 8th century,